Hey, about two students, especially aunts. Let's kind of finish up notes here. Well, I don't know if we'll finish up notes. But let's get through some more notes. So, if you, as I said before, this is chapter 12 and 13 combined. So we just got done with chapter 12. So we're going to move into chapter 13, which is mainly meiosis. Okay, so if you remember from Bio 1, some of the same uh, naming terminology. There's just a few differences between mitosis and meiosis that we'll get into. So really, when you start talking about meiosis, you're talking about heredity. So this is the introduction to my genetics course. So next try, we'll jump right in with genetics. That'll be our next chapter. And basically, meiosis is that process where we transmit traits from one generation to the next. So it's not a simple case like mitosis where we're just transmitting traits from one cell to the next, getting more blood, more skin, more muscle, that type of thing. This is actually in the egg and sperm cell, so we're transmitting those traits to the next generation of organisms, okay, or people or whatever. So if you guys remember, asexual reproduction are just basically clones. That's pretty much mitosis, right? So we're making a single individual out of a sole parent. Bacteria do this where they just have one cell, then two, then four, then eight, and they can do that very, very quickly. The problem with asexual reproduction is you don't get any variation, and whatever traits that one parent has, your offspring are stuck with those traits. You're not going to get any other traits introduced. So asexual reproduction is very simple, but very fast. What we're going to talk about, obviously, is sexual reproduction, where I have two parents, I have an egg and a sperm cell. And the problem with that is I got to get that chromosome number reduced in half. And that's the tricky part to meiosis. Whereas mitosis, we keep the number the same. Meiosis, we got to get that number down to half. And you have two parents, you get variations, you have unique combinations of genes. We'll get into law of segregation, independent assortment, and all those Mendel things later. So when you're talking about the human life cycle, so let's start with that, okay? Sorry about that, one too many clicks. Basically, we have 23 homologous chromosomes, or 46, and we have 22 pairs of what we call autosomes, or body chromosomes, and then we have one pair of sex chromosomes, the XX and female, XY and male. That's where we're going to kind of focus in on is that life cycle. So it's pretty simple. We have part of that life cycle is mitosis, and part of it is meiosis. But meiosis is what we're going to focus in on. And you can see from this diagram that we start out with 46 cells or chromosomes, and we end up with 23. And we have some terminology with that. A 2N is 46. That's a diploid number. That's the total number that we have for an organism. And in meiosis, we end up with an egg or sperm with an N number of 23. So basically, no matter what organism we're talking about, whatever the diploid number, you take half of that, you get the haploid number. If you know one, you know the other. If I have a haploid number, I take it times 2, and I get a diploid number. So on the test, I might say a zebra has 48 chromosomes. Is this diploid number? What's this haploid number? You would put 24. Or I'd say a rhinoceros has a haploid number of 20. His diploid number would be 40, right? So you either take it times 2 or you half it. So pretty simple. Nothing really that complicated with that. So when you do a karyotype is a picture or a photograph. We do it with computers now that displays chromosome pairs arranged by size and shape. So I'll show you a picture of that here. Let me show you. My links aren't working. I apologize for that. I should have fixed that before we did this. But so if you're looking at karyotype, this is what it would look like. This is a picture of your chromosomes. And you can see from this photograph, once it loads up here, that I'll get my face out of the way. You can see that maybe, there we go, get me out of the way. There you go. There's a picture of our chromosomes. The first 22 pairs are just body chromosomes. Some are long, some are short, but we have We have they're called homologous, where you have it's the same from mom, the same from dad, maybe different genes, but same size and shape. And you can see some are big, some are little. And then this would be a male because there's a big X and a Y here in that picture. We use karyotypes for lots of things. Obviously, we're talking about meiosis here. But if I was looking at genetic disorders to see if someone's got an extra chromosome, like Down syndrome, they have an extra 21st chromosome. That's where a karyotype would come in really, really important in the realm of figuring out genetic disorders and chromosome number disorders and that type of thing. All right. And we may talk more about that later on. But for right now, that's kind of what we're looking at. And I'm going to move my picture again. I apologize. It's going to be kind of a pain. There we go. Now, the biggest thing that we'll kind of get into, and we'll kind of wrap up notes either tomorrow or when we get back. I doubt we're not going to be there tomorrow, I'm sure, but with the weather looking like it is. We have these gametes. Gametes can be an egg or sperm cell. Gametes is just a general term we use. It just means we have a haploid number. And all other cells are what we call diploid, 2N. Okay, gametes are the only one we're going to get a 23 in humans, a haploid number. All right. And we're talking about syngamy. Syngamy is where an egg and a sperm come together and form a zygote, and that produces a haploid gamete. So that's basically meiosis. Back in the day, and we'll talk about this next chapter, but back in the day when Mendel was doing his experiments on pea plants and figuring out this law of segregation, independent assortment, and later we come up with Punnett squares from his stuff. We didn't know this. We didn't know what meiosis was. We didn't know that this took place. This came along later, and now we can explain the genetics behind Mendel's stuff through meiosis. And meiosis is basically what the process is going to allow that to happen. Now, understand that there is other types of life cycles that are out there that do a variation of meiosis. I'm just going to start one, and then we'll kind of. I'd rather try to explain this to you in class if I could, but let's do this one today, and then we'll kind of end notes with that, and then we'll finish up notes and take a test. At the end of the trimester, but. Fungus and some algae, they do a little bit different type of we call these alternative life cycles, a little bit different than what we do. Meiosis produces a 1N cell that divides by mitosis and produces a 1N adult, and then the gametes go through mitosis. So they kind of alternate back and forth. That's why we call it an alternate life cycle. Plants are kind of different too. They use a diploid 2N sporophyte, which produces the spores, and that produces a haploid spore, which then floats in the wind or travels by the water or by bees, and then it fertilizes, and then that divides by mitosis and produces a gametophyte, a gamete. So a gamete and a sporophyte are basically produced by two different parts of the plant, which is a little bit different than what we do as humans. But and then they fertilize. This gametophyte produces an egg, and then that spore will then fertilize that egg, and you still end up with the right number. But it is a little bit different how they do that than what we do. You can kind of see it here. A lot of people don't realize that, like pine cones, there's male and female. The little ones are males and the big ones are females. A lot of people think that the pine cone's a pine cone. Not true. But you can see that we have what you actually see, the physical plant, the big oak tree, the tulip, the rose, those types of things. That is actually a mature sporophyte that you see. And that produces a spore. And then the female gametophyte produces the egg. And then these two will get together and you get a seed, and then that develops into a mature sporophyte. So that's a little bit different. You can see it going both directions. There's pollen and there's the egg. It's a male and a female, different pine cones. They get together down here and fertilize, and then they eventually will turn into a mature sporophyte. So they use two separate things two separate parts of the plant. and whereas we use ovaries and the testes and that type of thing. So a little bit different, but it still gets to the same place when you're all said and done. All right. So that's kind of how that works. Kind of look those things over. Just want to do a few notes. So fill in your note packet so we can kind of pick up here and finish up notes when we get back. And then we will, and we're going to do, and I might just finish up notes tomorrow. We don't have school, which is kind of looking that way. I'll just kind of finish explaining this on the video, and you can finish up notes so we can do a review game and take our test on that Monday, that last day of the trimester, because you guys just flow into the next try, so I'm not worried about doing it on the last day. So I'll get back with you. So hopefully that makes sense. So do that. Fill out the little video review thing. It's on there. Actually, as your e-learning is the video review, but you got to do this to do well on the test. All right. Hey, have a great day, and we will talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.